Hello, I'm Dr. Danielle Mincy White of Emotional Physical Therapy. Since 1991, I have developed, delivered, and implemented curriculum to improve student success. Initially, in 1991, I began my work with academic achievement difficulties with student athletes in Division I intercollegiate athletics. What I found during that time was that by trusting my students to learn and providing them with the education and then equipping them with tools, I empowered them to not only be successful in the classroom, but outside of the classroom as well. Over the years, that has transcended from athletics throughout all levels of education. 16 years as a university professor, followed by another 2 years K through 12, most recently internationally in China. Throughout all of those experiences, my mission has remained the same: to educate, equip, and empower. That is what I'll do and what we do with the Emotional Physical Therapy SEL curriculum. So, before we get into the details, take a little trip with me. I want you to close your eyes and begin to visualize. Imagine a world where everyone takes full responsibility for their emotions. They're able to identify their emotions, then they're able to regulate themselves, manage those emotions. And from there, they make some good, responsible decisions. And from those decisions, they build better relationships. And from those better relationships, they're more aware of their place in society and how important they are to society. How does that world feel to you? Feels good, doesn't it? Imagine if that was throughout our current society with organizations, families, and last but not least, our children, our youth. That is what Emotional Physical Therapy SEL curriculum is all about. Okay, so now that we've had that little exercise, let me tell you about Emotional Physical Therapy SEL curriculum. First of all, our mission throughout all of our programming is to educate, equip, and empower. At the basis of it all, at the core, is that we trust our students to learn. We design our programs with the understanding that our students truly do want to learn. We just have to give them some assistance by educating them, providing them with techniques, and then trusting them to utilize those techniques that will then take them on through life. That's the mission of Emotional Physical Therapy SEL curriculum. So, at the basis of all SEL is the understanding and the research about relationships, brain development, and social and emotional learning. You see, from the ages of 0 to 7 years old, we as people come to an understanding about ourselves through our social interactions at home, at school, and in any place where we're coming into contact with other human beings. It is from those relationships that we then begin to develop ideas about ourselves. Emotions become embedded within us. And because schooling is a social experience, our students are coming to us with a variety of different interactions that have embedded within them emotions that can actually get in the way of their learning. So through SEL, what we are doing is we're providing our students with ways to manage those emotions, be aware of those emotions, make responsible decisions, build better relationships both inside and outside of the classroom, as well as be responsible members of society. Over 500 research studies show that social and emotional learning is key to students building resiliency, having less truancy and disciplinary problems, and most importantly, it crosses all socio-demographic levels, meaning that regardless of a student's background, whether they come from an affluent family or below the poverty line, SEL is a curriculum that is necessary to prepare our students for life. In the emotional physical therapy SEL curriculum, social and emotional learning means trusting our students to learn. Social and emotional learning is not a new concept. Seriously, it's been in the research for close to 20 years. That's 2 decades. Regardless of whether we call it character education, PBIS, conflict resolution, all of those methods lie within the social and emotional learning frameworks. However, what is different is that it's been difficult trying to integrate effective SEL curriculum into academic instruction. So, what makes it different now? COVID-19, the pandemic. Now more than ever, students need social and emotional learning, and everyone knows this. We all need social and emotional learning, but it is our responsibility to provide this to our students if we want them to come out of this as the productive students that we need them to be, because they are our future. So what we've been unable to actually figure out how to do in the past, it is imperative that we do now in this present time. And that is the basis of the emotional physical therapy SEL curriculum. Social emotional skills are strong predictors of whether or not students graduate from high school and complete college, the likelihood of being employed, higher earnings and financial stability, as well as building resilience and providing protective factors for children as they go through life and encountering any kind of adverse circumstances. The most important thing is that we are equipping them for life. Now, I'm going to discuss with you the 5 components of SEL. First is self-awareness. Being able to identify one's emotions. That's so very important. To know that this is what I'm feeling right now, here, in this moment. As an example, a student, say, is remote learning. That means, of course, that they are at home attending classes on the computer. And a younger sibling walks in the room. A student who is now able to identify their irritation or anger at this possible disruption would be able to do just that, identify the emotion. So a student who is able to be aware of their emotions is also a student who, with component 2, self-management. That student is now able to decide in that moment that the younger sibling has entered the room on how to manage their emotions. What will they do in that moment? Responsible decision making. The ability to make good, sound, responsible decisions. Okay, so that student who's aware of his or her anger and has decided what to do in that moment, that student would then make a responsible decision, such as sending a private message to the teacher saying, I'm turning off my camera. I have to get my little brother out of the room. That is good, sound, responsible decision making. Next, relationship skills, the ability to establish and maintain good, solid relationships. Now more than ever is this an imperative component in an SEL curriculum, because students now must be able to communicate effectively both with their teachers as well as their peers. Remember, the young student who has the younger sibling in the room, being able to privately send that message is that student's demonstration of his relationship skills or her relationship skills, both to the teacher as well as to their fellow students. Because you see, by sending a private message, they're making sure that they're not disrupting the flow of instruction. Last but not least, social awareness. This is where our student is not only aware of the impact of his or her emotions on themselves, but also on others. They're able to empathize with others. So when they turn off their camera, that sends a message that he or she is out of the room. So when that happens to someone else, the student is able to understand they probably had a similar situation. Social awareness is so important today that it cannot be understated. So now we're to the social and emotional learning competencies. These are basically the essential skills that an individual would need in order to be successful. Now, these are both intrapersonal, the ways that they deal with themselves, as well as interpersonal, the way that they deal with others. These competencies are actually the products of the techniques that the students would learn in the classroom or through the computer. Either way, the students would not only get the 5 components, but then those 5 components would result in the competencies being met through the techniques provided through the Emotional Physical Therapy SEL curriculum. Now, instruction and implementation. It may seem like a no-brainer, but the things that are necessary for an effective SEL curriculum are a positive learning environment, support from teachers, interaction with their peers, and most importantly, explicit SEL curriculum, meaning that the students understand the techniques and that they are practicing those techniques. At the end of it all, SEL curriculum must be well designed and well implemented. And that is what you will get in the Emotional Physical Therapy SEL curriculum. Now, integrating the Emotional Physical Therapy SEL curriculum into academic instruction. First and foremost, going back to fulfilling our mission to educate, equip, and empower through the education aspect. The teacher is a leader, a participant, and a facilitator. The teacher instructs. The teacher, him or herself, actively participates, engages in the techniques, and by doing so, facilitates the process in the classroom. And we're not talking a long time. At the beginning of each session, 5 to maybe at the most 10 minutes to begin the class. That is the education aspect of the mission of Emotional Physical Therapy's SEL curriculum. The second aspect of the Emotional Physical Therapy SEL curriculum is to equip. Now, in the equipping of our students, we take a student-centered leadership development approach, meaning that we are providing students with the opportunities to lead the class, as well as provide their feedback, which is so important to this process. Students provide their feedback of how they are integrating the SEL techniques into their everyday lives. How it is helping them to identify their emotions, manage their emotions, build their relationship skills, make responsible decisions, and be productive citizens in the academic realm. as well as at home. Last but not least, in fulfilling the mission of the Emotional Physical Therapy SEL curriculum is Empower. We're talking an SEL toolkit for life. All 5 components: self-awareness, self-management, responsible decision-making, relationship skills, social awareness. These are the aspects that they are taking with them through life through the integration and implementation of the SEL curriculum provided to you by Emotional Physical Therapy. The Emotional Physical Therapy SEL curriculum is designed to be a seamless method of instruction beneficial to teachers and students via techniques that fulfill the 5 components of SEL. The techniques are the means of producing within the intrapersonal and interpersonal competencies deemed as essential knowledge, skills, and mindsets that individuals need to succeed. After 1 week of an Emotional Physical Therapy SEL curriculum, students provided their feedback. Now, there were no incentives given to students for providing their comments. Just simply asked them to describe their experiences. One young man, an 8th grader at the time, described how using the techniques helped him to walk away from situations that he would not have walked away from before, how he was using the techniques at home, how he was concentrating more on his work. And that in itself was something that not only impressed the teacher, but impressed the rest of his classmates as well. That is evidence of the Emotional Physical Therapy SEL curriculum.